So recently, I counted how many coaching programs I've taken over the last few years, shortly before I even started my business. And I have taken 15 different coaching programs over the last 4 years. Yes, I admit I really like to learn, but it's not just because I'm a learning designer. It's because I love getting information, understanding how other coaches are approaching their programs. And what I have learned is the coaching industry is full of really talented people. They are very good at what they do. They know their subject matter. They care deeply. But what it's short on is well-designed programs. A lot of times they have good intentions, and I see so many gaps where coaches are missing the mark because they don't know how to fully create an inclusive, engaging client experience from start to finish. They know their content, but how to get that across is another matter. So today, I want to show you the 5 mistakes that I see ruining your coaching reputation. Not because you don't care, but because you just have never been taught. So I'm going to teach you how to avoid these mistakes so you don't let it bring your client's experience down, which ultimately impacts your reputation through completions, referrals, transformations, and ultimately your sales. So, mistake number one, unclear outcomes. And so, if you can't identify specifically what your learners are going to be able to do and say it in a way that resonates with them, they're probably not going to get that transformation. You have to set the goal in order to achieve the goal. So I want you to take notes as we go through and evaluate your own self. My question for you, if you're thinking on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being no clear outcomes and 5 being crystal clear outcomes, where do you fall? Can you articulate exactly what your client will be able to do, think, or feel differently after completing your program? In 1 sentence, what will your client be able to do by the end of your program? And a lot of times, what comes up is something really vague, as in we know our topic. Hey, I teach podcasting. Great, that's a start. But if I take your program, for instance, what am I going to be able to do by the end of that program? Am I going to learn about the history of podcasting? Am I going to learn about what equipment I need for podcasting? Am I going to learn how to structure a podcast, edit a podcast? What piece of that topic am I going to be able to do? And just the vague learn about isn't an actionable, tangible verb that I can measure. And so I use something called Bloom's taxonomy. It looks like a pyramid. You can look it up. And really, at the base of it are things like being able to remember or understand. That's kind of base level verbs that, yes, we can measure that. Are you able to identify 3 key pieces of equipment that you need to create an awesome podcast? Wonderful. Okay, we can do that. But ultimately, we want to funnel people up to the top of this pyramid where they're actually applying the skills. And you go through analyzing and evaluating what's good or not until ultimately you are creating something of your own. So there's a whole methodology there. But I really want you to think about specifying it, not just for yourself, but for your participants. What are they going to be able to do? And so the more specific you can make it, the more excited a participant is going to get about signing up for your program. So they know, ooh, I really need that outcome. I want to be able to do that thing. And another really important thing is when you have those clear outcomes, it makes it easier to know what to cut from your program. Because a lot of times we get excited. If you love podcasting, for instance, you're going to think about everything that you've enjoyed learning about podcasting. And it's going to be really hard for you to know what to cut out, especially if you want to keep the content simple, clear, and direct. Too many people will try to cover too much in their lessons or their courses or programs. And then we hear all the time students feeling overwhelmed. And what happens when they're overwhelmed? They give up. they drop out, they quit. And most of the time, those students just blame themselves when actually maybe the program wasn't set up for them to learn in the best way possible. Mistake number two that I see quite often is it comes down to poor design or poor structure. And this is related to the last topic I said, but I want you to do another little self-evaluation. On a scale of 1 to 5, is your program structured around how your clients need to learn or around what you know and love to teach? One being, oh yeah, I need a redesign. 5 being, nope, I think I've got a really solid structure that takes into account what my learners need. And so, something I see a lot of times is immense passion and confidence from the coach or the founding coach and facilitator. And I love it. Passion is definitely an important ingredient, but it's not the same as a curriculum that will take someone on a learning journey from not being able to do the thing, being a complete novice, to wow, I've really mastered a new skill. And so part of that comes from having the clear outcome so you can set clear expectations about what your client is going to get from this program, what they're going to be able to do. And so you should never have more than one outcome per lesson. So make it very distinct. And then you want to sequence wisely because you don't want to start too advanced where the learners are not set up for success. And if they can't start at step 1, they're never going to make it to step 4, 5, 9, or 10, however many you have. And so your client, you always want to make sure that they know where they are at, what their ability level is currently, where they're going, and why that matters. Understanding the purpose behind everything you're doing will help so things don't feel like busy work or unimportant or tangential to the actual learning goal. Some of you know I worked with faculty at a university, multiple universities, for a long, long time as an instructional designer. And so many faculty, I think we'd all agree, most of them have doctorates in their subject. They are very brilliant at what they do. So many of them weren't taught well. And so they have the mindset that I learned this way. Somebody lectured at me. I had to pull myself up by the bootstraps and figure it out. And now that's the way I'm going to teach you. And they're almost using that challenge as something they're proud of. And instead of setting students up for success by making each step reachable, they try to throw the whole mountain at them. I live in Colorado, so we use a lot of mountain climbing references. And so you don't start your very first hike day 1 with a 14er. You need to take it a little easier. You're not going to start with a 3,000-foot elevation gain over a couple miles. Like that is not healthy for somebody who's just getting into hiking or mountain climbing. And so that kind of challenge is poor design. We want to start people off on a more even level playing field so that they can feel the success mounting and they understand, okay, I need to learn this first step. Maybe I need to learn what gear to put on before I actually get out in the wilderness and start hiking all day and all night. So every session that you have, you want to give these early wins and you want to show your learners that they are capable of more and make it very clear, very sequential, and very obvious what that outcome is per each lesson. A lot of times you also need to know how things go together. So you may find yourself repeating yourself for good reason and making sure that you can connect what each lesson is covering so you can relate it back to the lesson prior and give them a little foreshadowing where they're going. All of these are ways to keep the learner really motivated while you're at it. So sequence matters, give them the wins early, and make sure each lesson connects back to the one before, but make sure your learners also know where they're going to keep them motivated for that ultimate outcome that they're after. There is a process that I will use quite often when I'm thinking about a sequence, and it doesn't have to 100% be in this order. I really like to personalize my learning for students, and when I work with clients, I don't give them precise formulas because every learning experience depends on a variety of factors. But there is one, if I had to give you one process for how to sequence a lesson, it would be absorb, do, connect. It's one of my favorite process models for the learning journey. And that absorb phase, it is important that you give your learners content, show them what it is they're going to be able to do. Teach them. This is kind of what we traditionally think of as teaching. I'm going to share my wisdom. Right now, I'm not having you do anything. You are listening and taking in information. This is absorption. But if I was really teaching you, the next thing I would do is have you practice the skill that I'm teaching you. So I'd have you do something after you've absorbed the information that I have to give you. Try it yourself, practice, do. And then ultimately, we want our learners to connect it to their real life situations. How does this connect with what I already know about the subject? What am I able to do? A lot of cognitive awareness. And ultimately, let's make sure I understand how this may show up in my day to day out in the wild. So, absorb, do, connect. And I wanted to share that framework with you because mistake number 3 is lack of application. And this comes up because so many people, again, it's what they were taught, it's the way they were taught. They are focused on speaking at learners to death and just talking their ear off and telling them everything they know about a topic versus let me be quiet as the instructor. Let me just have you practice. It is valuable. Coaches know that they make a difference, and I love that. I think they should share their stories, share their wisdom, but then sometimes you need to take a back seat and say, now, I want to hear from you. I'm going to give you some accountability homework. I'm going to have you go out and do it. Not optional, but you need to do this. I want to see how it turns out. It's really the beauty of where things happen. So, my third reflection question for you, scale of 1 to 5, does your program include built in moments where clients actively do the thing you're teaching them? 1 being, no, I mostly just give them content versus 5 is yes, there is a lot of rich application going on because that is what will help things stick. There's another model. You may have heard of the 70-20-10 model. People typically only retain 10% of what they hear through lectures, what they read through textbooks, or some kind of formal instruction. It's the absorption phase. It's not where deep learning happens. You start to get introduced to a topic, but usually you forget it. Okay, great. I read an article about it. It doesn't mean you've learned the thing. The 20 comes from that 20% being, okay, I've actively had interactions or discussions about it. Conversations can help, getting feedback, having coaching. That is an important 20%. And again, it comes through the idea that learning is very social. And if I can discuss about it, I get to hear where, oh, maybe you have a perspective I didn't think of, or you noticed something about my thoughts or actions that I hadn't considered. So it is important. I'm not saying none of these are, but 10% only through kind of traditional learning. I read, I watch a video about it. 20% of learning comes through what we discuss with others, but 70% comes through what we practice. And so that's really the hands-on experiential learning. That's where we actually have a chance to make mistakes. And then that 20% is nice if you can come back and talk about, okay, what went wrong? What could I do better? We absolutely need teacher feedback and interaction in that way. But more than anything, we need to do something with it. If you were to look up the Bloom's taxonomy pyramid, you'll see that remembering, understanding is really bottom level content. It's basic recall, but it's not where transformation happens. So we want to aim for something more transformational. You're going to have more doing, more application, more creation. So if your program is 90% instruction because you talk through most of your group coaching calls, or you just show a lot of videos, that's what maybe your course is made up of, and then 10% everything else, your clients are working against the science. And that's the ratio that I see. You're not having clients really think about what they know. You're not really having clients discuss it. And ultimately, they're not having clients practice it and try it for themselves, and with an opportunity to come back and discuss what went well, what went wrong, and learn from that. So I want you to flip it around and really aim for more practice than you're used to. Get them to apply it. And these are things I help my clients with all the time because most of us haven't experienced what really good experiential learning online can look like. And yes, you can do it even if you have an hour together. You can do it synchronously, asynchronously. There's lots of different models, but just wanted you to start noodling on, wow, do I actually have my clients practice enough? So that brings us to opportunity number 4, or mistake number 4. No opportunity to give feedback. And I think feedback is a really important category. And I think most people would agree that being able to give your learners feedback is vital. That's how most of us learned. Let's have somebody else evaluate my skill. Maybe listen to me do a sales call and let me know, how did I sound? Listen to me give my pitch. Listen to me execute my podcast. Give me feedback on how it sounded versus, hey, I'm just going to do the thing and I never know how it lands. But what I want to highlight is that most of the time, the problem comes from the other direction. Where I think we are smart enough to know, most coaches know, yeah, it's more helpful to give feedback to others. That's what a coaching session is most of the time. I won't say all the time. I know my brain, it's very analytical. So a lot of times coaching is helping the clients to pull out information from themselves. But yes, it's a two-way street. And feedback should be the same way, where it's not just me telling you how you did. I want you, the client, to tell me how I did, not just at the end, because that feels like I only care about a testimonial, because by then it's often too late to make a difference. But I want you to ask me for feedback early on so you can let the coach know what their experience in the program is like early on. So there's time to make changes, there's time to reach out and help that client if they need a little extra support before the whole program's gone by and they just give up. So, self-assessment question number 4. Do you formally collect feedback from your clients? Not just at the end, but during your program so you can catch problems early. Give yourself a 1 if you have no feedback system. Give yourself a 5 if you do ongoing check-ins. And maybe you're somewhere in between. Giving your clients an opportunity to give feedback, it is such a valuable way to show them that you care about what they think. And a lot of times it can be overwhelming starting a new program, getting used to how a new coach operates. And so just being asked, maybe it's something as simple as, I'm confused. I don't know if I'm looking in the right place. I don't know where to start. Those are usually very easy fixes. But if you haven't created the safe space or let your clients know how to reach out to you with questions, or that any question is okay, it doesn't have to be about the content itself. It can literally be about navigating the program. That is where it's a night and day difference between a client feeling like the coach really cares about them versus a client giving up. It is vital data. So it signals you care. Don't wait for the end. I think you should do it a few times throughout your program and make sure when clients do give you feedback, receive it with grace. It is a gift. And No, you don't have to agree with everything if they're giving you critical feedback. Sometimes students don't want to do hard work, but often it's giving you insight into what they're thinking, and then you can address it. I had a student once, and this was in an academic class, tell me, I hate Sunday due dates. I hate Sunday deadlines. And that was good feedback. I'm glad to know that that person didn't like Sundays, and it gave them a chance to explain what was going on maybe in their personal life. But it also, knowing that, gave me a chance to explain, hey, I open things up really early. So if you want to get a head start on a different day so you can finish before Sunday, that's great. You don't have to wait. But here's why I make it Sunday, because Monday, the university sets a new start for the week. And for me, it helps just keep everybody on track. So it is kind of an arbitrary date, but it's giving me a chance to explain why. It doesn't mean I change that date, but it gives me a chance to hear them, make them feel heard, tell them I appreciate their feedback, because that may lead them to giving me additional feedback that they wouldn't otherwise around something I do want to change or improve. And it also lets me know if they have another alternative. I can say, hey, do you have another suggestion? Maybe I don't have to keep due dates on Sunday. Whatever it is, it opens up a dialogue, and that creates a healthier dynamic and relationship between coach and client, participant and leader. So I encourage everyone to ask. It really is one of the most helpful things, not just asking for feedback, but how you take and receive that feedback. Shows the client you care about their experience. And so, our last mistake, our last topic I want to mention, I save it for last, not because it's more or less important. I think all these issues we've talked about today are equally important, but this is the one that is most pervasive. And I think it actually is affecting all of the other mistakes we've covered. And it's AI. Too often, I see coaches outsourcing their brain to AI. And I think many people are either totally for or against AI. I am not like that. I think there's a happy medium. I think there's a happy middle, and it's about using it intentionally. It can be an excellent tool to assist you so you can keep up with the pace of all the work you have to do on your plate. But if you rely on it too much, you're going to sound disingenuous, inauthentic. You're going to sound just like everybody else, and your empathy, your intelligence is not going to stand out to your clients. And that affects everything. So, my final self assessment question for you, scale of 1 to 5. When you use AI in your program creation, does it amplify your unique voice and method? Or has it started to replace your own teaching and thinking? And if you start with AI, you're going to end up with it sounding like AI. So I always encourage my clients, start with your own ideas, your own brain. Don't ask AI, for instance, to write a learning outcome for me. Maybe AI can help you finesse the wording of a learning outcome, but you have to tell it what exactly your clients are going to be able to do by the end of your program. It can't tell you that. And so I find AI being used as a crutch. It makes it easy to lose yourself. And I simply want you to be smarter than the robots. I want all of us to be smarter than the robots. So I will mention that I have an online course called the AI Teaching Shift. And it really is about how to teach smarter in the age of AI. And every single mistake that we've covered today, unclear outcomes, poor structure, lack of application and practice, a lack of asking for feedback, and using AI too much, I go into all of these much deeper inside the AI teaching shift. It's not a course just about using AI tools. It's really a course about teaching smarter with using AI as a thinking partner, as a tool to amplify your expertise, not replace it. So you'll learn what to outsource to AI and what to protect as yours. I want to hear your brain, your wisdom. I want to feel your empathy for learners. That's ultimately why I built the course. So I want to offer a special deal for those listening to this podcast. Use the promo code podcast 20 for $20 off the purchase price of this class. It's totally asynchronous. It'll give you a lot of helpful checklists and guides and things to think about. And I go deeper into how to really turn all these mistakes around for your program. As always, reach out to me on Instagram or find me on LinkedIn if you want to chat more about any of these topics. I'm so grateful to have you here. Tell your friends, and I hope to see you online. Thanks for tuning in to the Learning Alchemy Lab. If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe and connect with me on Instagram at The Learning Alchemist. Until next time, keep teaching with intention and creating learning that truly transforms.